Ethan turned off the truck and rubbed his neck, which was stiff from 10 hours on the construction site. The garage door lifted automatically, revealing Caitlin's white BMW X5 parked next to it. He climbed out, adjusted his navy polo shirt with the embroidered Walker Construction logo, and glanced at the house. The two-story mansion with its floor-to-ceiling windows and marble trim was his pride and joy. He designed it himself when he and Caitlin moved to Beverly Hills 7 years ago. He entered the house through the side door that led to the hallway. On the table by the door were Caitlin's keys, her Gucci bag, and a pair of Ray-Bans. Caitlin's voice, interspersed with the clatter of dishes, could be heard from the kitchen. "Ethan, where are you? I've been waiting for half an hour," she shouted. Ethan kicked off his shoes and walked into the kitchen. Caitlin stood at the marble island, holding a glass of white wine in one hand and her phone in the other. She wore a form-fitting black dress with a low neckline, her hair in soft waves, and makeup that accentuated her cheekbones. She looked like she was going to the Oscars rather than a work party. "Hey," Ethan put his briefcase on the chair. "You look beautiful." "Beautiful?" Caitlin raised an eyebrow, still glued to her phone. "Is that all you can say? Ethan, I'm throwing the biggest party of the year. Blake Harper is going to be there, all of Hollywood is going to be there, and you call it beautiful." Ethan opened the refrigerator, took out a bottle of water, and unscrewed the lid. "Okay, you look amazing. Is that better?" Caitlin set the glass down on the countertop with a soft thud and looked at him. "Ethan, do you even realize how important this is? This isn't just a party. This is my chance to show that I can still do something. I'm not just your wife or Lucas and Ava's mom. I was an actress, I had roles, people knew my name." Ethan took a sip of water and leaned against the counter. "Kate, I know, and you're doing great. It's just that I've been on my feet all day. The contractors are late delivering the concrete again, and the client is yelling that the deadline is running out. Let's not fight, okay?" Caitlin crossed her arms, her gold Cartier bracelet glinting in the chandelier light. "You always say that. Let's not fight. I'm tired. And when was the last time you asked how I was doing, or how the kids were doing? I carry everything on my shoulders, their clubs, training sessions, parent-teacher meetings. And where are you?" Ethan frowned, feeling irritation boiling in his chest. "I'm asking. Yesterday I talked to Lucas about his basketball, and to Ava about her drawings. And Kate, I work so that we can have this house, your dresses, Ava's school. You yourself wanted her to study at that art academy. Don't translate it into money." Caitlin raised her voice. "I want you here with us. At least sometimes. Do you even know that Ava cried yesterday? Her drawing was rejected for the exhibition, and you didn't even ask. Urgent complaint." She didn't say, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you didn't ask." Caitlin threw the phone on the table. "You come, have dinner, sleep, and leave again. I'm tired of being alone in this house." Ethan took a deep breath, trying not to break down. "Okay, I get it. I'll talk to Ava, and I'll pick you up after the party today. What time?" Caitlin looked at the clock on her phone. "By midnight, probably. I'll call if it's earlier. Just don't fall asleep in the car, like last time." "I won't sleep," Ethan forced himself to smile. "Go put on a show for them." Caitlin picked up her purse and headed for the door, but stopped in the doorway. "Ethan, do you really think I look good?" He walked up to her and put his hand on her waist. "You are the most beautiful woman I know. Always have been." Caitlin smiled, but there was something in her eyes, uncertainty, sadness. She kissed him on the cheek and left. Ethan heard her BMW start and pull out of the garage. He stood in the kitchen, looking at Caitlin's empty glass. Something about their conversation had gotten to him, but he couldn't figure out what. Fatigue, maybe? He shook the thought away and called out. "Lucas, Ava, I'm home." Lucas's voice came from the backyard. "Dad, I'm in the yard. Are you coming to play?" Ethan smiled and walked towards the stairs. "Give me 5 minutes to change." He went up to the second floor and knocked on Ava's door. "Ava, can I come in?" "Yes," came a quiet voice. Ethan opened the door. Ava was sitting cross-legged on her bed, a tablet in her lap. Her room was littered with sketchbooks, pencils, and anime posters. On the screen was a sketch of a girl with long hair and a sword. Cool drawing. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed. Who is this? Just a character, Ava shrugged, not taking her eyes off the screen. For a competition at school. Looks cool, Ethan nodded. You're definitely going to win. How are you? Everything okay? It's fine. Ava turned the tablet slightly so he couldn't see the screen. Did Mom go to her party again? Yeah, she has work. Ethan tried to sound neutral. She'll be home late. I'll pick her up. She's always late, Ava muttered, and you're always at the construction site. Ethan frowned. Ava, I'm trying. If something's wrong, tell me. Mom said you were upset about the exhibition yesterday. Ava tensed, her fingers hovering over the stylus. Did she tell you? It doesn't matter. They just didn't take my drawing. Nonsense. It's not nonsense. Ethan put his hand on her shoulder. Want to talk? I can help. No need, Dad. Ava pulled away. I'll figure it out myself. Ethan nodded, feeling like he hadn't gotten through. Okay, if you change your mind, I'm here. I'm going to play with Lucas. Come down for dinner. Ava grunted something in response, and Ethan walked out, closing the door. He went downstairs, changed into gym shorts and an old US Army t-shirt, and went out into the yard. Lucas was throwing a basketball at the hoop above the garage, his Nikes squeaking on the asphalt. Ready to lose, old man, Lucas smirked, throwing the ball to Ethan. Old man, Ethan caught the ball. Now let's see who's the old man. They played for half an hour until the sun went down. Lucas won 15-12, and Ethan, breathing heavily, clapped him on the shoulder. Not bad, son, but next time I'll do you. Dream on. Lucas laughed and ran into the house for water. Ethan stayed in the yard, wiping the sweat from his face. He pulled out his phone, no calls, no messages from Caitlin. He texted her. Is everything okay? Call me when you're ready. There was no answer. Ethan pocketed his phone and went back into the house. He ordered a pepperoni pizza through an app, deciding to have a quiet evening. Ava came down for dinner, but ate in silence, her head glued to her phone. Lucas chatted about his basketball team, but Ethan only half listened, glancing at his phone. Dad, what's wrong with you? Lucas noticed his gaze. Are you waiting for a call from Mom? Yes. Ethan put the phone down. She promised to call when she was ready. She's probably hanging out with those celebrities, Ava snorted, taking a bite of pizza. You can't drag her away now. Ava, stop. Ethan looked at her. Mom has work. Work? Ava rolled her eyes. She just wants everyone to tell her how cool she is. I said enough. Ethan raised his voice. Eat and go do your homework. Ava threw her napkin on the table and walked into her room, slamming the door. Lucas looked at his father. She's just angry. Mom has been kind of different lately. Not like that. Ethan frowned. How so? I don't know. Lucas shrugged. He's always on his phone, chatting with Samantha, and he dresses like he's going to a shoot. Ethan nodded, but something inside him clenched. He remembered the look in Caitlin's eyes, her words about being a star. He pushed the thought away and said, Okay, finish eating and go to bed. You have training tomorrow. Lucas nodded and went upstairs. Ethan turned on the TV, but news of a Blake Harper concert only added to his anxiety. The report showed fans screaming under the stage, and the host mentioned that the after-party is going to be loud. Ethan turned off the sound and leaned back on the couch. By 11 p.m., Caitlin hadn't answered. He called, but his phone was out of range. Ethan wrote another message. Kate, where are you? I'm leaving in half an hour. He stood up, put on his jacket, and climbed into his truck. The Hollywood Bowl was 20 minutes away. He turned on the radio, but a Blake Harper song made him turn it off. Ethan watched the road, feeling anxiety rising. He trusted Caitlin. 18 years of marriage, 2 children, it couldn't be that simple. But her words, her look, her leaving it all haunted him. Caitlin stood at the bar in the Hollywood Bowl's VIP section, adjusting the Bluetooth earpiece she used to coordinate with the staff. The room was buzzing. Servers in black vests were serving champagne. A DJ was spinning a remix of Blake Harper's latest hit, and the dance floor was filled with faces familiar from magazine covers. Caitlin looked flawless. A black dress emphasized her figure, a gold Cartier bracelet glittered on her wrist, and light makeup hid her fatigue. She had just finished checking to make sure the celebrity exit was clear when her friend Samantha, a 38-year-old PR woman with bright red hair, rushed over with 2 martinis. "Kate, you are a queen." Samantha thrust a glass at her. "This is your evening. Everyone is talking about how great you organized everything." Caitlin smiled as she accepted the glass. "Thanks, Sam, but I'm at work. I can't get drunk." "Oh, come on," Samantha rolled her eyes. "One sip won't kill you. Can't you see everyone staring at you? You're better looking than half these starlets." Caitlin took a sip, feeling the warmth of her martini spread down her throat. She glanced around the room. A Netflix producer was chatting with an actress from a new series. A couple of influencers were filming stories, and at the far wall, a group of paparazzi were waiting for one of the stars to do something headline-worthy. "They're staring because I'm running around like crazy." Caitlin adjusted her earpiece. "We're short-staffed, and the cake hasn't arrived yet." "Relax," Samantha nudged her. "You're in control. And by the way, Blake Harper just walked in. Did you see the way he looked at you?" Caitlin snorted, but her cheeks turned slightly pink. "Don't start. He's probably looking at every woman in the room. It's his job to be a rock star." "No way," Samantha narrowed her eyes. "He was staring specifically at you. And Kate, he's Blake Harper. His album has been #1 on Billboard for 3 weeks. If he talks to you, don't be stupid." Caitlin shook her head, but her gaze slid to the center of the room, where Blake was signing autographs, surrounded by a crowd. He was wearing black jeans, a leather jacket, and sunglasses pushed up on his forehead. The tattoos on his neck flashed as he laughed, and his voice, hoarse from the concert, cut through the noise. "He won't talk." Caitlin took another sip. "And I don't have time. I need to check the light." She turned to leave, but Samantha grabbed her arm. "Kate, listen. You've been married for 18 years. You have the perfect husband, the perfect kids, the perfect house. But when was the last time you did something for yourself? You were an actress, for fuck's sake. You were in a movie with Clooney. It's time to remember who you are." Caitlin froze. Samantha's words had stung. She remembered filming at 20, when her name was in the credits and agents were calling with offers. She had felt alive then. And now, home, kids, parties for other people. She looked at Samantha. "So what do you suggest? Drop everything and go on tour with Blake Harper?" "First," Samantha grinned, "just smile at him, and then we'll see." Caitlin laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. She finished her martini and set the glass down on the counter. "Okay, I'm going to work, and you behave decently." "Never," Samantha winked and walked off to join the group of bloggers. Caitlin turned on her earpiece and contacted the gym manager. "Joe, where is the cake? It should be here at 9:30. "In traffic, Caitlin," Joe replied. "He'll be there in 15 minutes. "Damn," she muttered. "Keep me posted." She headed toward the dance floor, checking to make sure the lights were working. Her phone vibrated in her purse, a text from Ethan. "Everything okay? Call me when you're ready." Caitlin glanced at the screen but didn't answer. She tucked the phone back in, feeling a little guilty. Ethan was waiting for her at home, and here she was in this noise, with everyone looking at her like she was a star. She liked it. "Caitlin Walker," a hoarse voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned around and froze. Blake Harper stood before her. Without his glasses, his eyes were bright green, and his smile was the one that made the fans swoon. "Yes," Caitlin adjusted her hair. "Mr. Harper, it's good to see you. Is everything okay?" "Mr. Harper," Blake laughed. "Call me Blake. And yeah, it's cool. Did you organize this party?" "Yeah," Caitlin nodded, trying to sound professional. "I hope you like it." "You bet." Blake stepped closer. You know how to throw a fit. Want a drink? To your success. Caitlin hesitated. She was at work, but Blake Harper was standing 2 feet away, and the look in his eyes made her feel less like an organizer and more like a woman being noticed. I don't drink on the job, she said, but she smiled. But thank you. Come on, Blake waved at the waiter. One cocktail. What do you like? Cosmo? Margarita? Cosmo, Caitlin gave in, but just one. Blake ordered 2 cocktails, and a minute later the waiter brought them. Caitlin took the glass, feeling her fingers tremble. She took a sip, and Blake raised his glass. To you, Caitlin. You made it this evening. They clinked glasses, and Caitlin felt the warmth of the alcohol mix with the adrenaline. Blake kept looking at her, and she suddenly realized he was flirting. The paparazzi in the corner started clicking their cameras, but she didn't pay attention. So, Blake leaned closer. Tell me about yourself. You don't seem like a typical organizer. You have charisma. Caitlin laughed. Charisma? You're the rock star, and I'm just doing my job. Don't play poorly, Blake smiled. I heard you were an actress. Did you star in a TV series? Caitlin tensed. She hadn't expected him to know. A long time ago, she said. Nothing serious. Episodes in Grey's Anatomy, a couple of commercials. Then I got married, had kids. Too bad, Blake shook his head. You would have stolen the show. You've got a face for the big screen. Caitlin felt her cheeks heat up. She finished her drink to hide her embarrassment. Thank you, but that's in the past. The past can be brought back, Blake winked. Let's go dance. Caitlin looked out at the dance floor where the crowd was moving to the new track. Her earpiece was Silent Joe hadn't called, the cake hadn't arrived yet. She knew she should decline, but Blake held out his hand, and she suddenly thought, why not? One dance, she said. I'm at work. One dance, Blake agreed, leading her to the dance floor. The music grew louder, the bass pounding her chest. Blake put his hand on her waist, and they began to move. Caitlin could feel the eyes on her, the guests, the paparazzi, Samantha smirking from the corner. She relaxed, letting the music carry her. Blake was a good dancer, his movements confident but not intrusive. He leaned in close to her ear. You move great, he said. Are you sure you don't want to go back to show business? Caitlin laughed, feeling a lightness she hadn't felt in a long time. I'm sure. I have a family, children. This is not for me. Family is cool, Blake nodded. But you deserve more. You're a star, Caitlin. Her phone vibrated in her purse, but she couldn't hear it over the music. It was Ethan, but the call was dropped. Caitlin danced, oblivious to the paparazzi filming her every move. Samantha ran up to them, holding her phone. Kate, you're on fire, she shouted. This is your moment. Go away yourself, Caitlin laughed, but didn't stop. The dance ended, but Blake did not let go of her hand. Another one, he asked. Caitlin looked at her watch, 10:30. She was supposed to check the cake, but Samantha waved her hand. I'll figure it out. Caitlin nodded and stayed. They danced for 2 more songs, and Blake ordered more drinks. Caitlin drank, feeling dizzy. You know, Blake leaned closer, this party is cool, but it's cramped for me. I have a penthouse downtown. It's quieter there, and the view of the city is awesome. Let's go. Caitlin froze. She knew this was crossing a line. Her phone vibrated again, but she didn't reach for it. Samantha, standing next to her, whispered, Kate, this is your chance. One night, and you will feel alive again. Caitlin looked at Blake. His smile, his eyes, everything screamed that she was special. She thought of Ethan waiting at home, but the thought was lost in the noise of the music. Okay, she said, but not for long. Blake smiled and led her to the exit. The paparazzi rushed after them, the flashes blinding. Caitlin covered her face with her hand, but Blake put his arm around her shoulders. Don't pay any attention to them, he said. They're always sensation-seeking like that. They walked out to a black limousine parked at the VIP entrance. The driver opened the door and Caitlin climbed in. Blake climbed in after him, and the car pulled away. Ethan parked his car in the Hollywood Bowl parking lot, turned off the engine, and checked his watch 11:02 p.m. The lot was nearly empty, just a few cars and a group of paparazzi milling around the floodlit VIP entrance. He pulled out his phone and checked his messages, nothing from Caitlin. His last text, "Kate, where are you? I'm leaving in half an hour," went unanswered. He dialed her number, but the call went to voicemail. Ethan frowned, feeling the anxiety that had been brewing at home grow. "Where the hell are you?" he muttered, getting out of the car. The cold night air hit him in the face. He started toward the entrance, but stopped when he noticed movement near a limo parked off to the side. A black Cadillac Escalade with tinted windows sat under a streetlight, and two people stepped out of the VIP area. Ethan recognized Caitlin immediately, her black dress, the way she walked. She was laughing, holding the hand of a man in a leather jacket. Ethan froze when he realized who it was: Blake Harper, the rock star whose face was on every billboard in Los Angeles. "Kate?" His voice was barely audible. The paparazzi came alive, flashes of cameras illuminating the couple. Caitlin covered her face with her hand, but Blake put his arm around her shoulders, whispering something. The driver opened the limo door, and Caitlin, still laughing, climbed in. Blake climbed in after him, and the car pulled away smoothly. Ethan stood there, unable to move, as if someone had turned off the sound in the world. His heart was pounding, the blood roaring in his ears. "Hey, are you for Caitlin Walker?" A guy in a baseball cap, one of the paparazzi, approached him, holding a phone. Ethan turned around, his face stony. "What?" "She just left with Blake Harper," the guy grinned. "The video is already online. Do you want to watch it?" He held out the phone. On the screen, Caitlin was smiling as she got into a limo, Blake holding her waist. The caption read, "Caitlin Walker and Blake Harper, a new romance." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "Is this your wife?" Ethan turned away without saying a word. He walked back to the truck and got behind the wheel. He opened Twitter, the top post. "Caitlin Walker leaves with Blake Harper. Party scandal." The video got 10,000 views in 15 minutes. "Damn it, Kate," he whispered, hitting the steering wheel. He started the engine and drove home without turning on the radio. The drive to Beverly Hills was a blur. He couldn't think of anything but Caitlin laughing in the limo, her hand in Blake's. 18 years of marriage, 2 kids, everything he'd built, and now this. It was 11:40 p.m. when he pulled into the garage. The house was quiet, except for the light in Lucas's room. Ethan walked in through the hallway, dropped his keys on the table, and went upstairs. He knocked on his son's door. "Lucas, are you sleeping?" "No," said a voice. "Measures, Papa." Ethan opened the door. Lucas was sitting on the bed with his laptop, headphones on, playing NBA 2K. He took off his headphones and looked at his father. "What's wrong with you?" "Where's Mom?" Ethan sat down on a chair at the table, rubbing his temples. "Mom, she's late." "Lucas, turn off the game. We need to talk." Lucas frowned but closed the laptop. "What happened? Is she okay?" Ethan took a deep breath. He wanted to lie, to say everything was fine, but the words stuck. Lucas looked at him, and Ethan realized he couldn't hide the truth. "Mom left with another man," he said quietly. "Blake Harper. I saw her get into his car." Lucas froze, his eyes widening. "What? Is this that singer? Dad, are you serious?" Ethan nodded, looking at the floor. "The video is already on the internet. Everyone has seen it." "Damn," Lucas threw the headphones on the bed. "Is she crazy? And you? What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Ethan shook his head. I need time." The door creaked and Ava walked in wearing unicorn pajamas, her hair pulled back into a messy bun. "Dad, I heard you come back," she said. "Where's Mom?" Ethan looked at his daughter and his heart sank. He didn't want to speak, but Lucas beat him to it. "Mom went off with some rocker," he said, his voice shaking with anger. "Blake Harper. Dad saw." Ava froze, her face turning pale. "This is a joke, right?" She looked at Ethan. "Dad, tell me it's not true." Ethan stood up and walked towards her, placing his hands on her shoulders. "Ava, it's true. I saw with my own eyes how she left with him. I don't know what's going on, but it happened. Ava recoiled, her eyes filling with tears. No, she shook her head. She couldn't. She's a mother. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and she threw herself at Ethan, burying her face in his chest. He hugged her, feeling her shoulders shaking. Lucas stood up, clenching his fists. Dad, if you get divorced, I'll stay with you, he said. Lucas, Ethan looked at his son. We haven't decided anything yet. Ava, go to bed. We'll talk tomorrow. I don't want to sleep. Ava pushed him away, wiping away her tears. How could she? Did she abandon us? Ethan tried to speak calmly. Go to bed, both of you. Please. Everything will be decided tomorrow. Ava ran out of the room, slamming the door. Lucas looked at his father. Dad, you won't forgive her, will you? Ethan didn't answer. He patted his son on the shoulder and walked out. In the living room, he sat on the couch, pulled out his phone, and opened a video. Caitlin, laughing, got into the limo. Blake hugged her. Ethan watched until the screen went black. His fingers shook as he opened the bank app. Their joint account was $320,000. He transferred $295,000 to his personal account, leaving Caitlin with $25,000. Then he went to the credit card app and blocked her cards. 2 Visa and 1 Amex. Let's see how you'll party now, he muttered. Ethan leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. His chest was tight, but there were no tears. What have you done, Kate? He whispered. Caitlin sat in the cab, staring at her phone. The text from Ethan, received at 12:47 am, burned into her mind. Don't come home. She read it dozens of times as the cab drove from downtown L.A. to Beverly Hills. Her head was pounding from martinis and lack of sleep, her dress was wrinkled, and her makeup was smudged. She tried calling Ethan, but he wasn't answering. Caitlin clutched the phone, her nails digging into her palm. The cab pulled up to their mansion at 7:05 am. Caitlin paid, stepped out, and froze. There were 3 cars parked at the gate, each bearing the logo of TMZ and 2 local tabloids. The paparazzi, spotting her, rushed forward, their cameras clicking. Caitlin, is it true that you're with Blake Harper? The guy with the microphone shouted. How did your husband react to this? Do you have an open marriage? Are you getting divorced? Another one picked up. Caitlin covered her face with her purse and walked quickly to the gate, entering the code. She ran into the house, slamming the door. The hallway was silent, except for the ticking of the wall clock. She kicked off her shoes and called out. Ethan, Lucas, Ava, I'm home. Silence. Caitlin dropped her purse on the table and went up to the second floor. The bedroom door was ajar. Ethan was sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing the same t-shirt as yesterday, holding his phone. His face was gray, his eyes were red. Ethan, Caitlin paused in the doorway. I can explain. He looked up slowly, his voice icy. Explain? You left with Blake Harper. You didn't answer your calls. You didn't come home. Where were you all night? Caitlin stepped closer, her voice shaking. Ethan, I swear, nothing happened. We were just talking. In his penthouse. I was drunk, lost track of time. But there was no sex. Ethan stood up, his fists clenching. There was no sex, are you going to tell me these tales? He raised his voice. It doesn't matter, Kate. You didn't come home. You spent the night God knows where with that rocker. Do you even understand what that looks like? I understand, Caitlin began to cry. But I didn't mean to. Samantha said it was nothing, just fun. I was wrong, I'm sorry. Samantha, Ethan snorted. You blame your friend? You're a grown woman, Kate. You have kids, a husband, and you leave with some guy, and the whole town sees it. Caitlin wiped away her tears, her voice becoming quieter. Ethan, I love you. It was a mistake. Let's talk. I'll fix it. Ethan took out his phone and showed the screen. Will you fix this? On the screen was a video Caitlin had posted on Instagram. She was dancing with Blake, laughing, getting into a limo. The caption read, "This is why I'm leaving." Caitlin gasped. You posted this? On my account? Yes, Ethan looked into her eyes. And I sent it to all your contacts. Your parents, your sister, your friends, your colleagues. Let them know who you are. Caitlin covered her face with her hands. How could you? You humiliated me in front of everyone. I humiliated you? Ethan took a step toward her. You humiliated me. Do you think I wanted all of Los Angeles to see my wife leave with another man? Her phone vibrated on the hallway table. Caitlin went downstairs, grabbed it, and saw dozens of messages. From her parents, Caitlin, what have you done? Her sister, are you crazy? Coworkers, is this true? She opened TMZ, and the headline read, Caitlin Walker leaving husband for Blake Harper. The video from the party had already racked up 50,000 views. Oh my God, Caitlin leaned against the wall. This is a nightmare. Ethan followed him downstairs, his phone vibrating. He opened the message and froze. It was a video from an unknown number Blake having sex with his wife. The text read, Dude, your wife is on fire. Ethan's face went white, his hand shaking. Ethan, what's up? Caitlin noticed his gaze. He silently showed her the screen. Caitlin gasped, her eyes widening. No, 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 she shook her head. Ethan raised his voice. Are you still going to say nothing happened? He sent me this, Kate. He's laughing at me. Caitlin cried louder, her voice breaking. But I love you. Ethan, believe me. Believe it. Ethan threw the phone on the couch. You ruined everything. The kids know, Kate. Caitlin gasped, her hand pressing to her chest. You told Lucas and Ava. Yes. Caitlin rushed to the stairs, screaming. Lucas, Ava, it's me. Please come out. She knocked on Lucas's door. Silence. Then on Ava's door. All she could hear was crying. Ava, darling, open up. It's Mom. I'll explain everything. Go away, Ava shouted from behind the door. I hate you. Caitlin pressed herself against the door, her tears dripping onto the floor. Ava, please, it's not like that. I love you. Lucas opened the door, his face red with anger. Mom, stop. We heard everything. Leave us alone. He slammed the door. Caitlin slid down the wall, sobbing. Ethan stood below, looking at her. His anger had turned to emptiness. Go away, Kate, he said quietly. I don't want to see you. Caitlin looked up, her voice hoarse. This is my home, my children. I'm not going anywhere. Your house, you've already lost everything by getting into his car. Ethan shook his head. I transferred the money to my account. Left you $25,000. Your cards are blocked. Think about where you'll live. Caitlin jumped up, her eyes shining. You can't do this to me. I'm your wife. I was. Ethan turned and walked into the living room. Caitlin stayed in the hallway, her sobs echoing through the house. She pulled out her phone to call her parents, but saw a new notification from TMZ. Walker scandal. Blake Harper video confirms affair. She clicked on the article. The penthouse footage of her embracing Blake was already online. Her phone vibrated a call from her mother, Linda. Caitlin, what have you done? Linda's voice was shaking. Dad, and I saw the video. How could you? Mom, Caitlin sobbed. You spent the night with another man. Linda raised her voice. You disgraced the family. Linda hung up. Caitlin dropped the phone and covered her face with her hands. The paparazzi outside were pounding on the gate, their voices coming through the windows. Caitlin, come out. People want details. She stood up unsteadily and went to the downstairs bathroom. Closing the door, she turned on the water to drown out the noise and looked in the mirror. Her face was puffy, her lipstick smudged. She remembered whispering yesterday, I can still be a star. She wanted attention, but not like this. Caitlin sank to the floor, hugging her knees to her chest, and began to sob. Her world was crumbling, and she didn't know how to save it. Ethan sat in the lax lounge, clutching his boarding pass. Lucas had his headphones on and was playing a basketball game on his phone. Ava, backpack in her lap, stared out the window at the planes taxiing to the runway. Their luggage, 2 suitcases, and a duffel bag was piled nearby. Ethan had been up all night, his eyes bloodshot and the stubble on his cheeks making him look older. After his fight with Caitlin, he had made a decision. They were leaving for Seattle. Not tomorrow, not next week today. The solution came at 3 a.m. while he was sitting in his living room. His phone was blowing up with messages, friends, co-workers, even Caitlin's mother, Linda, demanding an explanation. The video of Caitlin driving away with Blake Harper had racked up 200,000 views. Ethan couldn't stay there. At 4 a.m., he called his boss, Dan Crosby, the CEO of Walker Construction. "Ethan, what are you doing so early?" Dan's voice was hoarse from sleep. "Dan, I have to go," Ethan said quietly, so as not to wake the children. "Remember that project in Seattle, the office complex on 5th Avenue?" "Yes," Dan yawned. "We wanted to send Brian there. What happened?" "Personal issues." Ethan squeezed the phone. "I want to take on this project. I can fly out today." Dan was silent. "Dude, I'm sorry, but Seattle is no cakewalk. A 1-year contract, a 50 million budget. Are you sure? You have kids, school." "I'll figure it out," Ethan interrupted. "Transfer me. Brian can't handle it. You said so yourself." "Okay," Dan sighed. "I'll talk to the client. But you need to be there on Monday, and the accommodation is at your expense until we sign the additional agreement." "Deal," Ethan hung up. By 6 a.m., he had booked 3 tickets for the 11:30 flight, packed his bags, and woken the kids. Lucas, hearing they were leaving, nodded without asking questions. Ava began to cry but packed her backpack. Ethan left a note for Caitlin on the kitchen table. "We're leaving. Divorce details later, wait for lawyer's notice. Don't call." He didn't say where. "Dad, what about school?" Lucas took off his headphones once they passed security. "I'll enroll you in a new one." Ethan put his hand on his shoulder. "Seattle has good schools. Don't worry." "And Mom?" Ava looked at him, her voice quiet. Ethan tensed. "No, Ava. For now, it will be just the 3 of us." Ava turned away, her eyes shining again. Ethan reached out to hug her, but she quickened her pace. He sighed and led them toward the gate. The flight lasted 2.5 hours. Ethan stared out the window, trying not to think about Caitlin. Lucas slept. Ava drew on her tablet. It was 2 p.m. when they landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Waiting at the gate was Ryan Collins, a 45-year-old former colleague of Ethan's from Afghanistan. Ryan, a stocky man with a short beard, put his arm around Ethan. "Damn, bro, you don't look good." Ryan slapped him on the back. "Lucas, Ava, good to see you. Ready for Seattle?" "Yeah," Lucas shook his hand. Ava just nodded. "Thanks for meeting us." Ethan took the suitcases. "We need a home and a school." Already on the way, Ryan led them to his truck. "My sister works for a real estate agency. There's a house in the Capitol Hill area, 3 bedrooms, $3,500 a month. I can take you to see it." "Suitable," Ethan nodded. "What about schools?" "There's a good high school there." Ryan started the car. "I've arranged for you to be admitted on Monday. You'll have to fill out a few forms." "You're a savior," Ethan smiled tiredly. They arrived at the house, a 2-story wooden building with a small yard. It smelled of fresh paint, and the furniture was basic but clean. Lucas chose a room facing the street, Ava a room facing the yard. Ethan signed the lease through an app, sending the down payment. "Dad, how long are we going to be here?" Lucas threw his backpack on the bed. "I don't know yet." Ethan unpacked his suitcase. "But this is our home. Make yourself comfortable." Ava sat silently on her bed with her tablet. Ethan walked up to her. "Ava, do you want to go get pizza? Let's pick out something tasty." "I don't want to." She didn't look up. That evening, Ryan delivered pizza and helped set up the Wi-Fi. Ethan called the lawyer Dan recommended, Sarah Levin, a divorce specialist. They agreed to meet on Tuesday, but Ethan emailed her documents: a marriage license, bank account information, a copy of the children's passports. Sarah confirmed she would begin filing a lawsuit, but warned that Caitlin might contest custody. "What about Caitlin?" Sarah asked. "Will she call the kids?" "I'll give her access," Ethan sighed. "But Ava won't talk." "That's normal," Sarah said. "Kids often react that way." Set up a schedule of calls that will help in court. Ethan arranged for Caitlin to video call on Saturdays at 6 p.m. He texted her, "Call the kids Saturdays, 6 p.m., not me." There was no response, but he could see the message had been read. On Monday, Ethan drove the kids to school, Seattle High, 10 minutes from home. The principal, Mrs. Carter, showed them around campus. Lucas immediately noticed the basketball court. Ava remained silent but signed up for art class. Ethan filled out forms, transferring the semester's fees from his personal account. After school, he drove to the construction site, a lot on Fifth Avenue where the foundation for a 20-story office complex was being poured. His new office was in a trailer littered with blueprints. There he met Nora Davis, a 35-year-old interior designer hired to design the lobby. Nora, in jeans and a white shirt, her dark hair pulled back into a ponytail, extended her hand. "Nora Davis," she smiled. "Are you the new boss?" "Ethan Walker," he shook her hand. "Just back from Los Angeles, still getting settled in." "Welcome," Nora showed the sketches. "Here are my ideas for the lobby. Marble, glass, some greenery. What do you think?" Ethan glanced at the plans. Her style was modern, but warm, not cold like most designers. "Looks good," he nodded. "Let's discuss it tomorrow. I'm not in yet." "No problem," Nora looked at him. "Are you okay? You look tired." Ethan was surprised by her directness. "It's a long week," he evaded, "but I can handle it." "If anything, I know a great coffee shop nearby," Nora smiled. "It helps." Ethan nodded, feeling a slight warmth from her words. He returned to the drawings, but his thoughts were on the children, how to minimize their pain. Ethan parked his truck outside Seattle High, where Lucas and Ava were finishing up their first week of school. It was 3:15 p.m. on a Monday, and the sun was shining on the asphalt where teenagers were crowded outside. He turned off the engine and checked his phone, a text from his attorney, Sarah Levin. "Papers ready. Caitlin will get the house you asked for. Need signature." Ethan wrote, "Will ship today." He had decided to leave Caitlin the Beverly Hills mansion not out of generosity, but to avoid going back there. Too many memories. Lucas got out first, throwing his backpack into the back seat. "Dad, I signed up for the basketball team," he said, hopping into the car. "Tryouts are next week." "Well done," Ethan smiled. "How was school?" "It's fine," Lucas shrugged. "The algebra teacher is a pain in the ass, but the guys in the class are cool. Where's Ava?" "He's coming," Ethan nodded toward a figure in the crowd. Ava, with headphones and a backpack, was slowly approaching. Her face was as gloomy as it had been all week. She got into the car silently, without taking off her headphones. Ethan started the engine. "Ava, how was your day?" he asked, looking in the rearview mirror. "It's fine," she muttered, looking out the window. Lucas rolled his eyes. "She's been like this all day. Dad, can we pick up some burgers?" "Sure," Ethan said, turning toward the nearest In-N-Out. "Ava, what do you want?" "Nothing." She didn't turn around. Ethan sighed. Ava had barely spoken to him or Lucas since they left Los Angeles. He knew she was angry with Caitlin, but her silence was starting to scare him. After dinner, they returned to the rented house on Capitol Hill. Lucas went off to play Xbox. Ava locked herself in her room. Ethan sat down at his laptop to sign the divorce papers. He left Caitlin the house, but took most of their savings, $295,000, leaving her with $25,000. Sarah assured him it was legal, since the account was joint. Ethan sent the signed files and closed his laptop, feeling empty. On Tuesday, he was at the construction site, a site on Fifth Avenue where the shell of an office complex was already being erected. In a trailer that served as an office, he was discussing plans with contractors when Nora Davis walked in, her dark hair pulled back into a bun, her clipboard filled with sketches. "Ethan, do you have a minute?" Nora smiled. "I want to show you the updated layouts for the lobby." "Of course." Ethan put the folder down. "Let's go to the table." Nora unfolded the tablet, showing a 3D model. Marble floors, Glass panels, green walls with live plants. It will add coziness, she said. Clients want something modern, but not sterile. What do you think? It looks cool, Ethan nodded. Just greenery, isn't it expensive to maintain? A little, Nora shrugged. But I found a supplier who gives a discount. I can send an estimate. Excellent, Ethan looked at her. You're quick on the uptake. I try, Nora smiled. And what about you? Is Seattle too shocking after Los Angeles? Ethan chuckled. I haven't figured it out yet. The kids are settling in, I'm working. Everything is new. If anything, Nora lowered her voice, I know places where you can take your mind off things. Baseball games, galleries. You have kids, right? Yes, Ethan nodded. Lucas, 16, and Ava, 14. What a great age, Nora smiled. Does Lucas like sports? I go to Mariners games. I can take him if you want. Ethan was surprised by her offer. That would be great. He likes basketball, but baseball is cool too. Agreed, Nora wrote down his number. And Ava? What is her hobby? Draws. Ethan felt the warmth of her interest. He likes anime and stuff like that. Oh, I know a couple of galleries with modern art. Nora perked up. Maybe she'll like it. Think about it. Thank you, Nora, Ethan nodded. I'll ask them. She left, and Ethan returned to his drawings, but her smile remained in his memory. He pushed the thought away now was not the time for anything new. By Wednesday, Lucas came home with news. He'd made the basketball team. Ava had signed up for the art exhibit at her school club, but she still said nothing at dinner. On Thursday, Nora texted Ethan. Mariners game Saturday, 3 p.m. Want to bring Lucas? He asked his son, who lit up. Cool, Dad, let's go. Ethan suggested Ava go to the gallery with Nora, but she muttered, I don't want to. On Saturday, Ethan drove Lucas to T-Mobile Park, where Nora was waiting for them in a Mariners cap and jeans. Lucas immediately brightened up, chatting with her about the players. Ethan watched them laugh and felt relieved Lucas looked happy for the first time since Los Angeles. Thanks, Nora, Ethan said when they returned. He loves it. No problem, Nora smiled. He's a cool guy. He called me Nora the Cool. Is that my title now? Ethan laughed for the first time in a week. It looks like it. After the game, Nora suggested Ava go to the Seattle Art Museum on Sunday. Ethan talked his daughter into it, and Ava reluctantly agreed. Nora picked her up on Sunday, and Ethan stayed home with Lucas. When Ava returned, she showed him a photo from the exhibit the first time she smiled. Nora said I could try watercolors, Ava said quietly. They're okay. Ethan nodded, feeling Nora slip into their lives. He wanted to thank her, but something in him feared the pain of Caitlin's betrayal was stopping him. He wasn't ready to trust. On Saturday at 6 p.m., it was time for a video call with Caitlin. Ethan set up Zoom on his living room laptop and called the kids over. Lucas, Ava, Mom are calling, he said. Lucas went downstairs, but Ava remained in the room. Ava, come down, Ethan shouted. I won't. Her voice was sharp. I don't want to see her. Ethan sighed and joined the call. Caitlin appeared on the screen, her face pale, her eyes puffy. She tried to smile. Lucas, her voice shook. How are you? How is Seattle? It's fine. Lucas looked away. The school is fine. I'm on the basketball team. That's great, Caitlin swallowed. And Ava, is she there? No, Lucas shook his head. She doesn't want to talk. Caitlin bit her lip, her voice wavering. Please tell her that I love her. And I love you. I'm so guilty. Okay? Lucas shrugged. Dad, can I go? Ethan nodded and Lucas left. Caitlin looked at Ethan. Ethan, can I come with you? No, he interrupted. Only with the children. That's all for now. He hung up the phone, feeling a twinge of guilt, but an even bigger anger. He walked up to Ava's room and knocked. Ava, are you okay? Leave me, her voice was muffled. Ethan walked back into the living room where Lucas was playing on the Xbox. He sat down next to him, looking at the screen. Dad, Lucas paused, not looking up from his game. Nora's cool. She took me and the guys out for hot dogs after the game. She told me I could be a pro at basketball. She's a good girl, Ethan nodded. Lucas turned off the game and looked at him. You know, I like her. Mom wouldn't go to the match. She only thought about parties. Ethan froze. His son's words were like a blow. He wanted to protest, to tell them that Caitlin loved them, but he couldn't. Instead, he put his hand on Lucas's shoulder. Nora is a friend, he said. But Mom is Mom. Don't forget. Lucas nodded, but his eyes said he didn't agree. Ethan stood up, feeling tired. He went into the kitchen, opened a beer, and sat down at the table. Nora was kind, open, but he couldn't let himself get close. Not now, at least not this soon. Not after what Caitlin had done to him. Caitlin stood in the empty living room of the Beverly Hills mansion, looking at the boxes stacked against the wall. It was 8 p.m. Tuesday. The furniture had already been moved out, and the marble floors gleamed, reflecting the light from the empty rooms. The realtor, a woman in a suit, was waiting at the door with paperwork. Caitlin, it's all set, she said. The buyers have wired the money. After taxes and fees, you'll have about $1.2 million left. Sign here. Caitlin picked up the pen, her hand shaking. She signed the sales contract, feeling a part of her life slip away. This house had been her and Ethan's dream. They'd bought it 7 years ago when his career was taking off. Now it belonged to strangers. Thank you. Caitlin handed the papers back and left without looking back. She climbed into her BMW X5, the only thing left from her old life, and drove to Santa Monica. Last week, she bought a condo, a 2-bedroom, 3rd-floor apartment with an ocean view. The price, $650,000, ate up half of her savings from selling her house. The rest, about $500,000, was in a new account she opened when Ethan cut off her credit cards. The apartment was more modest than the mansion. White walls, hardwood floors, a small kitchen. Caitlin unpacked boxes of clothes, dishes, and photographs. She paused, holding a framed family photo. Ethan, Lucas, Ava, and herself on a Malibu beach 2 years ago. Her eyes filled with tears. She set the photo on the shelf, but turned it face down. Caitlin knew she had to move on. The next day, she started her new job as a manager at Starlight Events in Santa Monica. The office was in a glass building overlooking the waterfront. Her boss, Laura Green, a 50-year-old with a sharp gaze, showed her to her desk. Caitlin, you'll be handling weddings and corporate events, Laura said, handing over a folder. We have a client tomorrow, a 200-guest wedding. You'll prepare an estimate. Got it, Caitlin nodded, sitting down at the computer. The work was familiar but routine, calling suppliers, coordinating menus, checking decorations. Co-workers, having learned about her scandal with Blake Harper, whispered behind her back. Caitlin tried not to pay attention, but every sidelong glance reminded her of the video that was still being discussed on social media. TMZ released a new report. Caitlin Walker, from star party to divorce. Paparazzi waited for her outside the office, shouting questions. Caitlin, are you still with Blake? She hid her face behind sunglasses and said nothing. At home in her empty apartment, Caitlin felt lonely. She tried calling Ethan, but her number was blocked. Lucas answered her calls once a week, but his voice was cold. Ava didn't answer at all. Caitlin texted her, Ava, honey, please talk to me. I love you. There was no answer. Her parents, Paul and Linda, rarely called. In one conversation, Linda was abrupt. Caitlin, your father and I are in shock, she said. You've brought shame on the family. How could you do this to Ethan, to the children? Mom, I didn't sleep with him, Caitlin sobbed. It was a mistake. I'm trying to fix it. Fix it, Linda snorted. Ethan left with the kids. They're in Seattle. Do you even know how Ava cries? Caitlin gasped. They're in Seattle? Why didn't he tell me? Because you broke his heart, Linda sighed. We love you, but you need to figure this out on your own. Linda hung up. Caitlin sat on the couch, clutching her phone. She dialed Blake's number. He hadn't answered since that night. On the third ring, he hung up. Caitlin threw the phone on the pillow. Bastard, she whispered. To keep her sanity, Caitlin enrolled in an evening psychotherapy course at UCLA Extension. Classes met twice a week for 3 hours. She sat in a room with other students, young graduates, and middle-aged adults taking notes on theories of personality and motivation. She liked the idea of understanding why people acted the way they did. Maybe she could understand herself. A week later, she began seeing a therapist, Dr. Alice Moore, a 55-year-old with a soft voice and penetrating eyes. Their first session was on a Friday at 4 p.m. in a cozy office overlooking the palm trees. "Caitlin, why are you here?" Alice asked, holding up her notebook. Caitlin looked at her hands, fiddling with the bracelet. "I destroyed my family," she said quietly. "I left with a man, Blake Harper. It was everywhere on the news, online. My husband left, took the kids. They won't talk to me." Alice nodded, her face neutral. "Tell me what happened that night." Caitlin swallowed, her voice shaking. "I organized a party after his concert. He noticed me, said I was special, that I could be a star. I drank, my friend Samantha egged me on. I went to his penthouse. We talked, drank, and laughed. I didn't sleep with him, but I stayed until the morning." "Why did you go?" Alice looked into her eyes. Caitlin paused, her fingers clenching. "I wanted to feel alive. I was an actress, I starred in a TV series, and then children, house, husband. I disappeared. Blake, he brought that feeling back to me. For one night." Alice wrote something down in her notebook. "And what did you feel when you returned home?" "It's horrible." Caitlin began to cry. "Ethan showed me the video Blake sent him. He hates me. The kids hate me too. The paparazzi are all over me. I've lost everything." "What do you think you've lost?" Alice asked. "My family," Caitlin sobbed. "My husband, my kids, my reputation. I ruined it all for one night." Alice handed her a box of tissues. "Caitlin, it's an important step to accept your responsibility, but destruction is not the end. Let's figure out why you were looking for this feeling of being alive. What were you missing?" Caitlin wiped away her tears. "I don't know. I loved Ethan, the kids, but I wanted to be seen, not as a mother or a wife, but as me." "It's called the thirst for recognition," Alice smiled. "Everyone has it, but in your case, it manifested itself through selfishness. You put your desires above your family. What do you think you can do now?" "I don't know." Caitlin shook her head. "They don't want to see me. Ethan blocked me. Ava, she hates me." "Start with yourself," Alice said. "Therapy is a good step. Learn to understand your motives. Over time, you'll be able to show the kids and Ethan that you've changed." Caitlin nodded, but her heart was clenching. After the session, she drove home feeling a little lighter, but the loneliness returned as soon as she opened the door to her apartment. She turned on the TV, but the news about her was still playing on News. Caitlin Walker, fall of a party star. She turned off the screen and lay down on the couch, staring at the ceiling. On Saturday at 6 p.m., she logged on to a Zoom call with the kids. Ethan had set up a schedule, but he didn't show up. Lucas came on screen, his face grim. "Hey, Lucas," Caitlin tried to smile. "How are you? How's school?" "Fine," he shrugged. "I play basketball. Ava doesn't want to talk." "Please tell her I love her," Caitlin swallowed. "And I love you." "I'm so sorry, Lucas." "Okay," he looked away. "I have to go." The call ended. Caitlin closed her laptop and began to cry. She opened her phone to text Blake, but stopped. He was part of her mistake, and she didn't want to see him anymore. Instead, she wrote in the notebook she gave Alice, "I was selfish. I sought fame and lost my family." Caitlin knew the road to redemption would be long. Ethan sat at a table in the Bean and Brew coffee shop on Capitol Hill, sipping black coffee. It was 7:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and the shop was buzzing with baristas frothing milk, students tapping away at laptops, and the smell of fresh croissants filling the air. Across from him, Nora Davis, in a lightweight blue shirt and jeans, was scrolling through sketches on a tablet, preparing for a morning meeting at a construction site. Ethan, here's the final mock-up for the conference room. Nora turned the tablet around. Added wood paneling to soften the glass. Client needs to approve. Ethan looked at the screen. Warm tones, minimalist lines, but with character. It looks cool, he nodded. Do you always do everything this quickly? Habit, Nora smiled, sipping her latte. After the divorce, I buried myself in work. It helped me not to go crazy. Ethan raised his eyebrows, surprised by her candor. They had worked together for 3 weeks, but personal topics rarely came up. Divorce? He asked carefully. If you don't want to, don't tell me. It's all good, Nora shrugged. Nick and I were married for 5 years. He was an architect, I was a designer. We seemed like the perfect couple. But he wanted a career in New York, and I wanted a home and a family. He left, I stayed. We divorced 2 years ago. Ethan nodded, looking into his cup. It's hard. I'm sorry. And you? Nora looked at him. You don't talk about your wife, but I can see that you're hurt. Ethan tensed. He didn't want to dredge up the past, but Nora looked at him with such sincerity that he couldn't brush it off. Caitlin cheated on me, he said quietly, with Blake Harper, the rock star. Left with him after a party. The video leaked online, all of LA saw it. I took the kids and moved here. Nora gasped, her eyes widening. God, Ethan, this is terrible. How are you coping? I can't cope, he chuckled. I'm just moving forward. For Lucas and Ava. They're cool, Nora smiled. Lucas is a future basketball star, and Ava is a talent. Her drawings in the gallery were amazing. Ethan smiled for the first time that morning. Thanks for taking her there, and Lucas to the match. They're all talking about you. I like them, Nora finished her latte. Listen, let's have a picnic on Saturday at Volunteer Park. I'll take the food, you take the kids. We'll relax. Ethan hesitated. The picnic with Nora sounded tempting, but something inside him, fear, guilt about Caitlin, was holding him back. That sounds great, he said finally. I'll ask them. Agreed, Nora stood up. It's time to go to the construction site. Don't be late. She winked and walked away, leaving Ethan with a slight warmth in his chest. He finished his coffee, feeling Nora quietly becoming a part of his life. By Friday, Lucas and Ava had agreed to a picnic. Lucas was thrilled. Nora promised a frisbee, Ava muttered, only if it's not boring. Ethan texted Nora, we're in. What should we bring? She replied, just good vibes. They arrived at Volunteer Park, a green oasis overlooking Puget Sound, at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Nora had already spread out a blanket under a tree with a basket of sandwiches, fruit, and a bottle of lemonade on it. She was wearing shorts and a white t-shirt, her hair down. Hey, team, Nora waved. Ready for some fun? Yeah, Lucas threw down his backpack. Where's the frisbee? Here, Nora took out the disc. But first, food. Ava, do you want turkey or tuna? With tuna. Ava sat down on the blanket, looking at the bay. Ethan helped set out the food, feeling awkward. Nora was so easy, so open, and it scared him. They ate, talking about school, basketball, and new TV shows. Lucas told her about hitting a three-pointer at practice. Ava mentioned that her drawing had been chosen for a school art show. Ava, this is cool, Nora smiled. Will you show me? Maybe, Ava shrugged, but the corners of her lips twitched. After dinner, Lucas and Nora played frisbee while Ava drew in her notebook. Ethan watched them, feeling the tension of the last few weeks ebbing away. Nora ran up, out of breath. Ethan, join us. She tossed the disc to him. He caught it and laughed. I'm not an expert at this. You'll learn, Nora winked. They played for half an hour until Lucas pulled Ava into the game. Ethan and Nora sat on the blanket, watching the children. You're great with them, Ethan said. They've gotten attached to you. They're cool, Nora smoothed her hair. What about you? Really, Ethan, don't pretend. He sighed, looking out over the bay. I don't know. Sometimes it seems like I'm doing everything right. Sometimes it seems like I'm ruining their lives. You're not ruining it, Nora touched his hand. You're here with them. That's the main thing. Ethan looked at her hand, feeling the warmth. He wanted to say something, but Lucas shouted, Dad, help! Ethan stood up, grateful for the distraction. That evening, when he got home, he decided to thank Nora. He wrote, Thanks for the picnic. Maybe dinner tomorrow. I'm cooking. She replied, As long as it's not pizza. 7 p.m. On Sunday, Nora arrived at 7 p.m. Ethan cooked steak and potatoes, and Lucas and Ava helped with the salad. Dinner was fun. Nora talked about her first job, decorating a cafe that closed after a month, and Lucas joked that she was Nora the Cool. Ava was quiet, but she listened, smiling occasionally. After dinner, the kids went upstairs, and Ethan and Nora stayed in the living room with glasses of wine. The lights were dim, and soft music played in the background. Thank you for dinner, Nora smiled. You're not only an engineer, but also a cook. I'm trying, Ethan sat closer. Nora, I like having you with us, but I don't know if I'm ready for more. She looked at him, her eyes serious. Ethan, I'm not in a hurry. You've been through hell, but you deserve to be happy. Don't forget that. Ethan felt her words hit something deep inside. He leaned closer, their faces inches apart. Nora didn't pull away, her breath warm. They almost kissed, but Ethan suddenly pulled away, his heart pounding. Sorry, he looked away. I need time. It's okay, Nora touched his hand. I'm in no hurry. She stood up, picked up her bag, and headed for the door. Ethan walked her out, feeling a mixture of relief and regret. When he returned to the living room, Ava was standing on the stairs, looking at him. A rare smile lit her face. What? Ethan frowned. Nothing. Ava turned and went to her room. Ethan sat down on the couch, still feeling the warmth of Nora's hand. He knew he was afraid, but her words, "You deserve to be happy," sounded like a promise in his head. Caitlin sat in her lawyer's office on the 15th floor of a downtown Los Angeles skyscraper. It was 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in late July 2025. The office was sterile, a glass desk, leather chairs, and picture windows overlooking the 101 freeway traffic. Her lawyer, Margaret Wilson, a 50-year-old with a short haircut and a stern look, placed a folder of papers in front of her. Caitlin, this is the divorce agreement, Margaret said, opening the folder. Ethan leaves you a house in Beverly Hills valued at $2.5 million. He takes $295,000 from the joint account, leaving you $25,000. He gets custody of the kids, but you get weekly video calls. Sign here. Caitlin picked up the pen, her fingers shaking. She stared at the papers where her 18-year marriage had been reduced to numbers and signatures. The home she loved was now her only anchor, but without Ethan, Lucas, and Ava, it felt like an empty shell. He doesn't want child support, Caitlin looked up. No, Margaret shook her head. Ethan has waived alimony and your assets, except for savings. He also does not ask for the house to be divided. That is generous, given the circumstances. Generous? Caitlin smiled bitterly. He took my children. Caitlin, Margaret lowered her voice. You left with another man. The video was everywhere. The court could have given him full custody without the right to call you. He compromised. Caitlin swallowed, her eyes shining. I didn't sleep with Blake Harper. It was a mistake. One night. The court doesn't care, Margaret sighed. Ethan provided evidence, videos, messages. If you contest it, it will drag on for years and cost tens of thousands. My advice, sign it. Focus on the children. Caitlin looked at the signature line. She remembered Lucas coldly answering her calls and Ava refusing to even come to the screen. She signed the documents, feeling her heart clench. What next? She asked, handing back the pen. I'll send this to Ethan's lawyer. Margaret put the folder away. The divorce will be finalized in a month. If you want to restore your relationship with your children, start small. Call, write, show that you've changed. Caitlin nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. She walked out of the office, took the elevator down, and climbed into her BMW X5, which was parked outside the building. Her phone vibrated a call from her mother, Linda. Caitlin answered, holding the phone to her ear. "Caitlin, did you sign?" Linda's voice was tired. "Yes." Caitlin looked at the traffic. "He left me the house. But the kids, he's not getting them back." Linda was silent. "I talked to Ethan. He said Lucas is on the basketball team. Ava is painting for an exhibition. They're, they're happy, Caitlin, in Seattle." Caitlin gasped, her eyes filling with tears. "Happy? Without me?" "They're adjusting." Linda softened her tone. "Ethan's trying. He doesn't stop them from talking to you. But Ava, she's still angry." "I know," Caitlin sobbed. "She's not answering. Lucas is cold, too. Mom, what should I do?" "Give them time," Linda sighed. "And work on yourself. Do you see a psychologist?" "Yes." Caitlin wiped away her tears. "And therapy. But that doesn't bring my family back." "It's a start," Linda said. "Your father and I love you, but you need to stand on your own 2 feet." Caitlin hung up, feeling even more alone. She started her car and drove to Santa Monica, to her apartment. At home, she opened her laptop and began writing a letter to Ava. "Honey, I know you hate me. I made a mistake, and I'm so sorry. I want to be your mom again. Please give me a chance." She reread the text, but didn't send it, afraid of silence in response. The letter remained in drafts. The next day, Wednesday, Caitlin was in the Starlight Events office, sorting through orders for wedding flowers. Her coworker, Mia, a 28-year-old assistant, walked in with coffee. "Caitlin, have you heard about the Veterans Concert?" Mia put her glass on the table. "Next month, downtown. We were offered catering." "Veterans?" Caitlin looked up. "Who's going to be there?" "Lots of people," Mia shrugged. "Businessmen, politicians, and the former military. They say it will be cool." Caitlin froze. Ethan was a veteran. He had served in Afghanistan. She knew he wouldn't miss an event like this, especially if his company was sponsoring it. Her heart started beating faster. "Are we taking the contract?" she asked. "Laura is thinking." Mia nodded. "Do you want to join the team?" "Yes." Caitlin answered faster than she intended. "Sign me up." Mia left, and Caitlin opened the concert website. A veterans benefit, August 15th, at a venue in downtown Los Angeles. Sponsors included Walker Construction, Ethan's company. She closed her laptop, feeling a mixture of hope and fear. If Ethan was there, she might see him. Maybe talk to him. Maybe he'd give her a chance. That evening, Caitlin drove to Sunset Brew, a cafe on the Santa Monica boardwalk. She loved the place, the wooden tables, the smell of coffee, the view of the ocean. She ordered a cappuccino and sat by the window, pulling out a notebook her therapist, Dr. Alice Moore, had given her. Caitlin wrote, "Why did I go with Blake? I wanted to be seen. But I didn't see how I was hurting Ethan and the kids. I had to show that I had changed." The waiter, a young guy with a tattoo on his arm, brought coffee. "Caitlin, right?" He smiled. "Saw you on TMZ. Don't worry, everything will be fine." Caitlin forced a smile. "Thank you." But his words only made the pain worse. She knew her scandal was still being talked about. The paparazzi were less frequent at her house, but social media was still linking her name to Blake Harper. She opened Instagram. Her account, where Ethan had posted the video, was flooded with comments. "Traitor, shame." She deleted the app, but the pain remained. At the next session with Alice on Friday, Caitlin talked about the concert. "I want to see Ethan," she said, fiddling with the bracelet. "Maybe if he sees that I've changed, I don't know, forgive me." Alice looked at her. "Caitlin, what do you expect from this meeting?" "Hope," Caitlin swallowed, "that he wouldn't hate me, that Ava and Lucas would give me a chance." "It's possible," Alice nodded, "but you have to be prepared for rejection. Ethan and the kids have a right to their feelings. Focus on what you can control: your work, your studies, yourself. Caitlin nodded, but her mind was on the concert. She imagined herself walking up to Ethan and saying, "I'm guilty, but I'm changing." She knew it was a risk, but it was her only chance. On Saturday at 6 p.m., she logged on to a Zoom call with her kids. Lucas came on screen, his face neutral. "Hey, Lucas," Caitlin smiled. "How are you? How's basketball?" "Fine," he shrugged. "I made a couple of three-pointers. Ava won't be out." Caitlin clenched her fists under the table. "Tell her I love her. And you, I'm seeing a psychologist, trying to become better." "Okay," Lucas looked away. "I have to go." The downtown Los Angeles event space was aglow. Huge chandeliers cast light on tables covered in white tablecloths, where guests, businessmen, politicians, veterans shaked hands. On stage, a string quartet played jazz tunes, and a screen behind the stage showed the Walker Construction logo among other sponsors. It was 6 p.m. on a Saturday, and the Veterans Benefit was just getting started. Ethan Walker stood at the door, adjusting his navy suit jacket. He had left his army fatigues in Seattle. He didn't want to draw attention to himself, but his tie with the Afghan veterans emblem gave away his past. Nearby, Nora Davis, in an elegant green dress, held a glass of champagne, her dark hair in soft waves. Lucas, in a black shirt and jeans, chatted with the son of Ethan's coworker, and Ava, in a simple black dress, stood off to the side, scrolling through her phone. "Are you nervous?" Nora touched Ethan's hand, her voice soft. "A little." Ethan looked around the room. "I don't like these kinds of gatherings. But Dan said that our company should show its face." "You'll be fine," Nora smiled. "And you look great. Lucas and Ava too. Are they okay?" "Lucas, yes," Ethan nodded. "Ava, still closed off. Doesn't want to talk about Caitlin." Nora frowned, her gaze becoming serious. "Ethan, I know you're hurting, but for the sake of the kids, you and Caitlin need to learn to communicate. She's their mother, even after everything." Ethan tensed, his jaw clenching. "She left with another. Left us. I gave her calls on Saturdays. That's enough." "Maybe not," Nora lowered her voice. "Lucas is holding up, but Ava is suffering. They need their mother, even if they're angry. You don't have to forgive, but the connection is important." Ethan wanted to object, but he noticed Ava looking at him. He nodded. "I'll think about it, but not today." They walked into the room, taking a table near the other sponsors. Ethan introduced Nora to his colleague, Dan Crosby, who winked. "Good choice, Ethan." Ethan rolled his eyes, but Nora laughed, diffusing the awkwardness. Meanwhile, Caitlin Walker, wearing a black catering uniform with the Starlight Events logo, stood at the appetizer table, setting out canapes. Her hair was pulled back into a tight bun, her face bare of makeup, but the tiredness in her eyes was obvious. She knew Ethan would be there. Walker Construction was sponsoring the concert. Caitlin had hoped to see him, maybe talk to him, though the fear of rejection was clutching her chest. She glanced around the room and froze when she spotted Ethan and Nora. They were laughing, their hands touching. Caitlin felt a twinge of jealousy mixed with pain. Lucas and Ava were there, her children, so grown up, so distant. "Caitlin, move," whispered Mia, her colleague, pushing a tray of drinks. "The guests are waiting." "Yes, right now." Caitlin looked away, but her hands were shaking. She picked up the tray and walked toward the tables, trying not to look at Ethan. But her eyes found him anyway, his smile, his gestures that she knew by heart. Nora, beautiful and confident, was there, and Caitlin felt invisible. She set the tray down on the table and walked back to the catering area, where Mia noticed her looking. "Is this your ex?" Mia nodded towards Ethan. "With a new friend?" "Not a friend," Caitlin pressed her lips together. "Just a colleague." "Well, she looks like a friend," Mia chuckled. "Are you okay?" "Yes," Caitlin turned away, but her heart was pounding. She picked up a new tray and headed to another table, but stopped when she saw Lucas standing by the stage, taking a picture of the poster. Caitlin stepped toward him. "Lucas?" Her voice was quiet. He turned around, his face tense. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "Working," Caitlin tried to smile. "Catering. You look good. How are you?" "Fine." Lucas looked away. "I have to go." "Wait." Caitlin touched his arm. "Is Ava here? I want to see her." "She doesn't want to see you." Lucas pulled away. "Mom, don't start." He walked away, leaving Caitlin with the tray in her hands. She walked back to the catering area, tears stinging her eyes. She spotted Ava at the drinks table, but Ava saw her and turned abruptly and walked away to Ethan. Caitlin hung her head, trying not to cry. Nora, who had been watching the scene, frowned. She leaned toward Ethan. "It's Caitlin, isn't it?" she whispered. "She looks broken." "Her problems," Ethan shrugged, but his voice was tense. "Ethan," Nora looked him in the eye, "I know you're angry, but for Lucas and Ava's sake, you need to find a way to communicate. Not as husband and wife, but as parents. They're suffering." Ethan squeezed the glass, his gaze cold. "She ruined everything, Nora. I can't pretend everything is okay." "Don't pretend," Nora touched his hand, "but try to rise above it. For the children." Ethan was silent, looking at Ava, who was sitting with the phone. He knew Nora was right, but the pain of betrayal still burned. Nora stood up. "I'll go talk to her," she said. "Not for you, for them." "Nora, don't," Ethan frowned. "It's not your concern. It's the concern of everyone who sees Ava hiding her tears." Nora smiled. "Trust me." She headed toward the catering area where Caitlin was setting out the desserts. Caitlin looked up when she saw Nora and tensed. "Caitlin, right?" Nora extended her hand. "I'm Nora Davis. I work with Ethan." Caitlin shook his hand, her face wary. "Yes," she swallowed. "You with Ethan?" "Friend," Nora smiled. "Caitlin, I know what happened, but Lucas and Ava, they're the most important thing. We can be adults and work together for them, right?" Caitlin gasped, her eyes shining. "You want to be friends after everything?" "Not friends," Nora shook her head, "but partners for the kids. Ava doesn't talk to you, but I can see how much she misses you. Let's try for them." Caitlin looked at Nora, feeling a mixture of gratitude and shame. She nodded, her voice shaking. I'll try. Thank you." Nora squeezed her hand. "We can handle it." She returned to the table where Ethan looked at her with disbelief. "What did you do?" he asked. Gave her a chance, Nora sat up. "For your children. Think about it." Ethan turned away, his gaze falling on Caitlin, who stood at the table, looking at Ava. He felt angry, but Nora's words echoed in his head. Lucas and Ava returned to the table, avoiding looking at their mother. Ethan put his hand on Ava's shoulder, but she pulled away. Caitlin, noticing this, turned away, hiding her tears. The downtown Los Angeles event space was buzzing as guests applauded the speaker on stage, a Vietnam veteran who was talking about supporting former soldiers. Tables covered in white tablecloths were laden with empty plates and glasses, and waiters milled about the aisles. Ethan Walker sat at the sponsor's table, next to Nora Davis, his colleague and a friend who had just offered to befriend Caitlin for the sake of the kids. Lucas and Ava, his children, stood at the bar with mocktails, chatting with other teenagers. Ethan clutched his glass of water, his gaze wandering around the room. He spotted Caitlin in the catering area, setting out desserts, her face pale. Nora, noticing his tension, touched his arm. "Ethan, are you okay?" Her voice was quiet. "Not exactly," he shook his head, his jaw clenching. "She's here, Nora, and he is too." Nora followed his gaze and froze. At a table far away, surrounded by a group of friends, sat Blake Harper. His leather jacket gleamed under the chandeliers, the tattoos on his neck flashing as he laughed, holding a bottle of beer. Ethan felt his blood boil. "Don't do anything stupid." Nora squeezed his hand. "He's not worth it." Ethan didn't answer. He stood up, his eyes fixed on Blake. Nora tried to stop him. "Ethan, please," she whispered. "Think about Lucas and Ava." But Ethan was already walking toward Blake's table. His steps were firm, his fists clenched. The guests around him fell silent, sensing the tension. Caitlin, noticing the movement, looked up and gasped. Lucas and Ava, standing at the bar, turned, their faces tense. Blake looked up as Ethan stopped in front of his table. His friends, 3 men in designer shirts, fell silent, looking at Ethan. Blake Harper, Ethan's voice was cold but loud. Who are you? Blake leaned back in his chair, grinning. A fan? Ethan stepped closer, his eyes blazing. I'm Ethan Walker, Caitlin's husband. You showed me who my wife was. Blake froze, his smirk gone. His friends looked at each other, one of them muttering, Dude, is that the guy? What are you talking about? Blake stood up, his voice sharp. I didn't touch your wife. You didn't, Ethan snorted. You sent me a video of you hugging her in your penthouse. You destroyed my family, but I paid back. I sent your tapes to TMZ. I got your tour canceled. You're nobody, Blake. You're a bastard. The hall fell silent, even the music on stage seemed quieter. Caitlin, standing near the catering area, covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. Nora ran up to Ethan, but didn't have time to stop him. Blake turned purple, his fists clenched. You piece of shit, he growled, lunging at Ethan. Blake struck first. The guests jumped up. Someone was filming on a phone. Lucas shouted, Dad! Ava pressed herself against her brother, her eyes wide. Stop it. Nora tried to intervene, but the crowd pushed her back. Blake swung again, but Ryan Collins, Ethan's army friend from the next table, arrived. His massive frame slammed into Blake, throwing him against the table. 2 veterans in uniforms and medals grabbed Blake's arms. Calm down, idiot, Ryan barked, holding him back. That's enough. Blake's friends jumped up, but another veteran, a bald man with an eagle tattoo, blocked their way. Sit down or you're finished, he said calmly. The venue's security detail, 3 men in black suits, pushed through the crowd and handcuffed Blake despite his protests. He started this, Blake shouted, pointing at Ethan. I'm going to sue. Shut up. The guard pushed him toward the exit. The police will sort this out. Ethan stood there, breathing heavily, his fist bloody. Ryan slapped him on the shoulder. Are you okay, brother? He asked. Yes, thank you. Nora ran up, her face pale. Ethan, are you crazy? She whispered, but hugged him. It was stupid, but I understand. Ethan nodded, his gaze falling on Caitlin. She was standing by the catering area, crying, her hands clutched to her chest. Their eyes met, and Caitlin shook her head, whispering, I'm sorry. Ethan looked away, feeling anger mingle with fatigue. Lucas and Ava approached, their faces tense. Dad, why did you do this? Lucas clenched his fists. Now everyone will talk. I'm sorry, son. Ethan put a hand on his shoulder. I lost control. Ava was silent, looking at her mother. Caitlin took a step toward her, but Ava retreated, hiding behind her brother. Caitlin stopped, tears streaming down her cheeks. She turned and walked into the back room where the waiters kept the trays. Guests returned to their tables, whispering. The speaker on stage resumed his speech, but the atmosphere was tense. Dan Crosby, Ethan's boss, approached him. Damn, Ethan, that was a show. He shook his head. But I'd have punched that idiot too. Go get yourself cleaned up. Ethan nodded and walked to the bar, where he ordered water. Nora followed him, her hand still on his shoulder. You scared me, she said quietly, but you said what you wanted. Now let it go. I don't know if I can. Ethan looked at her. He ruined my life. No, Nora shook her head. You're building a new one. With Lucas, Ava, she trailed off, but her gaze was warm. Ethan nodded, feeling her support calm him. He looked at the children standing at the table. Lucas had his arm around Ava, who was still looking toward the back room where Caitlin had disappeared. Ethan knew that confronting Blake hadn't solved anything, but he felt lighter, like he'd lifted some of the weight off his shoulders. Security said the police had taken Blake to the station. He was facing arrest for assault, especially after the video of the fight had been leaked. Ethan knew it would only add to the scandal, but he didn't care. He did what he had to do. Caitlin, in the back room, sat on a box, her face in her hands. Her sobs echoed off the walls. She blamed herself for that night, for Blake, for the pain she had caused everyone. Mia, her co-worker, came in and touched her shoulder. "Caitlin, go home," she said. "We'll get through this." Caitlin shook her head, her voice hoarse. "I can't. It's my fault." She stood up, wiped her tears, and walked back into the room, but stayed in the shadows, avoiding eye contact. Ethan, Nora, Lucas, and Ava were on the other side of the room, and she knew she couldn't get to them today. Ethan parked his truck outside his home on Capitol Hill, turning off the engine. Lucas and Ava climbed out, lugging backpacks. Nora, who was sitting next to Ethan, smiled, smoothing her hair. "Home, sweet home," she said, looking at the two-story house with a wooden facade. "Did you miss it?" "You bet," Lucas grinned, opening the trunk. "La is a circus. Dad, you were like Rambo at that concert." Ethan chuckled as he pulled out his suitcase. "Don't exaggerate, son. It was stupid." "Not stupid," Lucas shook his head. "You punched that Blake. Everyone's talking about it." Ava, who had been silent the whole way, threw her backpack on the porch. "That was stupid," she muttered. "Now there's video everywhere again." Ethan looked at her, his face softening. "Ava, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to drag you into this." She shrugged and walked into the house, slamming the door. Lucas rolled his eyes. "She's just being dramatic," he said. "Dad, she'll cool off later." Nora touched Ethan's hand. "Give her time," she said quietly. "She saw Mom. It's hard." Ethan nodded, feeling tired. The fight with Blake Harper at the Veterans Concert, his arrest, the flashes of the cameras, all of it was spinning in his head. But the one that hurt him the most was Caitlin's face, crying in the catering area. He pushed the thought away and helped Nora carry her bag. In the living room, Lucas turned on the Xbox. Ava locked herself in her room. Ethan and Nora sat in the kitchen, opening a bottle of red wine. The lamplight reflected in the glasses, creating a cozy atmosphere. "Well," Nora raised her glass, "to the fact that we survived this circus," as Lucas said. Ethan clinked glasses with her, his smile tired. "For this, and for you. Thank you for being there." "You're welcome," Nora sipped her wine. "But Ethan, you scared me. Fighting a rock star, it's not your style." "I know," he sighed. "It's just, he ruined my life. I wanted him to feel that." "He felt it," Nora smiled. "And now you're a YouTube star. The video got 1 million views." Ethan rolled his eyes. "Excellent. Another scandal." "It's not a scandal," Nora touched his arm. "You showed that you care. But now let go. For Lucas, for Ava, for yourself." Ethan looked at her, feeling the warmth of her hand. Nora had been with him these past months' picnics, games, dinners. She had become a part of their lives, and he knew he didn't want to lose her. He put down his glass and took her hand. "Nora," his voice was quiet. "I don't know how to say this. You saved us. Me, the kids. I didn't think I could trust again, but with you, I want to try." Nora froze, her eyes widening. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" He took a deep breath, his heart pounding. "Marry me." Nora gasped, her hand squeezing his fingers. "Are you serious?" She laughed, but her eyes sparkled. "It's unexpected and very fast." "I know," Ethan smiled, "but I'm sure. You're the best thing that ever happened to us. I love you." Nora paused, looking at him. Then she leaned down and kissed him, softly but warmly. "Yes," she whispered, "I will marry you." Ethan pulled a box out of his pocket, a simple silver ring he'd bought last week in Seattle when he'd realized he couldn't live without her. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and Nora laughed, wiping away tears. "It's perfect," she said, admiring the ring. "Just like you." They hugged, and Ethan felt the weight of the last few months lighten. Lucas, who had come in for water, paused in the doorway. "Hey, what's wrong?" He grinned. "Dad, did you ask her out?" "Yeah," Ethan nodded. and she said yes. Cool, Lucas ran up, hugging Nora. Nora the Cool is now officially in the family. Ava, hearing the noise, came down. Her face was gloomy, but when she saw the ring, she softened. Congratulations, she muttered, looking at Nora. That's cool. Thank you, Ava, Nora smiled. Are you going to the wedding? Maybe, Ava shrugged, but the corners of her lips twitched. Ethan hugged his daughter, feeling her begin to thaw. He knew Ava was still mad at Caitlin, but her smile was the first step. The next day, Saturday, at 6 p.m., it was time for a video call with Caitlin. Ethan set up Zoom on his living room laptop and called the kids. Lucas, Ava, Mom are calling, he said. Lucas went down, Ava stayed upstairs. Ava, come down, Ethan shouted. I won't, her voice was sharp. Ethan sighed and tuned in. Caitlin appeared on the screen, her face tired but smiling. Lucas, her voice shook. How are you? How is Seattle? It's fine, Lucas sat down in front of his laptop. Basketball is going great. Ava won't be coming out. Caitlin bit her lip. Tell her that I love her. And you. Like Dad? He's okay, Lucas shrugged. Mom, did you see the video from the concert? Caitlin turned pale. Yes, she swallowed. I'm so sorry this happened. You weren't the one who punched Blake, Lucas chuckled. Dad was cool. Caitlin forced a smile. I'm glad you're okay. Call me if you want. The call ended. Ethan closed his laptop, feeling a twinge of guilt for Caitlin, but the anger was still smoldering. He knew he should give the kids a chance to interact with her, but he wasn't ready. Meanwhile, in Santa Monica, Caitlin sat in her new office, a small room overlooking the waterfront, where she opened an event agency called Silver Star Events. Her starting capital, $200,000, came from a class action lawsuit against Blake Harper. The lawyer representing a dozen people who had been harmed by his actions won the payout after a concert video vindicated his reputation. Blake lost contracts, and the court ordered him to pay $250,000 to each plaintiff, including Caitlin. Caitlin hired 2 employees and signed her first contract, a wedding for 150 guests. She worked late, coordinating vendors and decorators. But every night, when she returned to her empty apartment, she opened a draft of a letter to Ava, adding, I saw you at the concert. You're so beautiful. Please forgive me. She did not send it, afraid of silence. Caitlin knew her agency was a step up, but without the kids and Ethan, it felt pointless. She stared at the ring on Nora's finger in her mind, imagining Ethan smiling at her. Her tears fell on the table, but she wiped them away and went back to work. Seattle, Belltown Wedding Hall. The Belltown ballroom was softly lit. White garlands hung from the ceiling, tables were decorated with flowers, and picture windows overlooked Puget Sound. About 50 guests were in attendance, friends of Ethan and Nora, co-workers from Walker Construction, a few veterans, including Ryan Collins. Lucas, in a black suit, adjusted his tie next to Ava, who had chosen a simple blue dress. Their grandparents, Paul and Linda, Caitlin's parents, sat in the front row, Linda wiping away tears with a tissue. Ethan stood at the altar, dressed in a dark gray suit, his face alight with reserved joy. Nora walked into the sound of a violin, her white dress flowing, her hair adorned with flowers. Lucas whispered to Ava, Nora is like a princess. Ava nodded, her lips twitching into a smile. The ceremony was short. Ethan and Nora exchanged vows, their voices shaking with emotion. Nora, Ethan said, holding her hands, you've given me my faith in life again. I promise to love and protect you always. Ethan, Nora smiled, you and the kids are my everything. I promise to be there no matter what. They put on the rings, and the guests applauded as they kissed. Lucas shouted, wow! Ava laughed for the first time in a year. Paul and Linda hugged, but their faces were shadowed. Caitlin's absence was felt. At the reception, Ethan and Nora were dancing to Elvis Presley's Can't Help Falling in Love. Lucas ran up to them, hugging them both. Dad, Nora, you're cool, he said. But I don't call you stepmom, Nora Cool. Agreed, Nora laughed, kissing him on the cheek. Ava sat at the table, watching the dance. Linda came up to her, touching her shoulder. Honey, are you happy for Dad? She asked. Yeah, Ava nodded. Nora's cool, but I miss my mom. Linda squeezed her hand. She misses you too. Maybe you can write to her. Ava shook her head, her face tense. I don't want to. She ruined everything. Linda sighed, but didn't insist. Ethan, noticing their conversation, came over. Is everything okay? He asked, looking at Ava. Yes, Dad. Ava stood up. I'll go get some juice. Ethan watched her go, feeling a pang of guilt. He knew Ava was hurting, but he couldn't make her forgive Caitlin. Nora came over and hugged him. She'll cope, she whispered. We all will. Ethan nodded, kissing her forehead. He felt like his life had new meaning with Nora, but Caitlin's shadow still loomed over them. Los Angeles, Silver Star Events Office. Caitlin sat at her desk in her Santa Monica office. Her phone buzzed a text from her mother, Linda. Ethan and Nora's wedding was beautiful. Lucas and Ava are happy. I'm sorry you're hurt. Caitlin clutched the phone, her eyes filling with tears. She knew she wasn't invited. Ethan had made it clear he didn't want her. But the thought of her parents being there, with her children, was heartbreaking. Caitlin, are you okay? Oliver Kane, the 42-year-old owner of Starlight Events, where she worked before opening her agency, walked in with 2 coffees. His brown hair was slightly tousled, his smile warm. Yeah, Caitlin wiped away her tears as she accepted the glass. Just family stuff. Oliver sat down opposite, his gaze understanding. Do you want to tell me? I'm not trying to, but you look like the world has collapsed. Caitlin sighed. She had met Oliver 3 months ago when he had helped with suppliers for her first contract. Their conversations had progressed to coffee, then dinner. Oliver, divorced, childless, was kind but direct. She had made her decision. My ex-husband got married, she said quietly. My children were there, but I wasn't. They didn't want to see me. Oliver nodded without interrupting. Is it because of that scandal with the rock star? He asked carefully. Yeah, Caitlin looked down. I went away with Blake Harper for 1 night. I didn't sleep with him, but it doesn't matter. Ethan left, took Lucas and Ava. I lost everything. Oliver took her hand. Caitlin, you haven't lost everything. You have an agency. You're building a life. Children can forgive. Give them time. She looked at him, feeling the warmth of his hand. Do you really think so? Yes, Oliver smiled. And I want to be there if you'll let me. Shall we go to dinner tonight? It's my turn to pay. Caitlin smiled for the first time that day. Okay, at 7? Agreed, he stood up. And don't be sad. You are stronger than you think. Oliver left, and Caitlin opened her laptop, but her thoughts were on the kids. She pulled out her phone and texted Ava, I heard about Dad's wedding. I'm happy for him. I love you. An hour later, she received a reply, don't call me. Caitlin gasped, her heart clenching. She wanted to text more, but stopped, remembering the psychologist's words, give them space. She put the phone away, wiped her tears, and went back to work. That evening, at the Ocean View restaurant on the waterfront, Caitlin and Oliver sat by the window, watching the sunset. Oliver ordered seafood pasta, she ordered salmon salad. The conversation flowed easily, about clients, about his trip to Italy, about her psychotherapy courses. Do you really want to be a therapist? Oliver raised an eyebrow, sipping his wine. Not really, Caitlin smiled. But I want to understand people. And myself. I've been selfish. I want to change. Oliver looked at her, his gaze serious. You're already changing. I see how you fight for your agency, and for the children, even if they're not ready. Caitlin clutched her glass, her voice quiet. Oliver, I want to start over. Not just the agency, but life. But I'm afraid I can't. You can, he took her hand, and I want to be a part of it, if you're ready. She looked at him, feeling her fear recede. Oliver wasn't Ethan, but his kindness gave her hope. She nodded. I'm willing to try, she said. They smiled at each other, and for the first time in a year, Caitlin felt like she could move forward. Seattle, Ethan and Nora's home a week later. Ethan and Nora returned from their honeymoon weekend in Vancouver. Lucas and Ava greeted them with pizza and a humorous sign. "Welcome, newlyweds." Ethan hugged the children, feeling like their family had become stronger. "Dad, Nora is officially cool now." Lucas grinned, taking a bite of pizza. "Always was," Nora winked, sitting down next to Ava. "And how are you, Ava? Everything okay?" "It's okay," Ava shrugged, but her voice was softer. "I drew something for you." She pulled out a notebook, revealing a sketch of Ethan and Nora against the backdrop of a bay. Nora gasped. "Ava, this is amazing," she hugged her. "We'll hang this in the living room." Ethan looked at them, feeling grateful. He knew Ava was still struggling with the pain of what Caitlin had done, but her gift was a sign of progress. He hugged Nora, whispering, "Thank you for being with us." "Always," Nora kissed him. 7 years later, Ethan Walker, now slightly gray at the temples, stood in the kitchen, frying pancakes. His Capitol Hill home, purchased 5 years ago, was spacious. Hardwood floors, large windows, walls decorated with Ava's drawings and family photos. Nora, in a t-shirt and shorts, was slicing fruit, her wedding ring glinting in the morning sun. Their children, Miles, 6, and Ella, 4, sat at the table, drawing with crayons. "Dad, more syrup," Miles pointed at the plate. "Right there, champ," Ethan smiled, pouring maple syrup over his pancakes. Nora laughed as she put down the bowl of strawberries. "Ethan, you're spoiling them." "Ella is already asking for syrup for everything." "It's Dad's work," he winked, kissing her on the cheek. The doorbell interrupted them. Ava, 21, walked in with a backpack, her long hair pulled back into a braid. She was visiting for the weekend from Portland, where she worked for an environmental NGO. "Hi, family." Ava hugged Nora, then Ethan. "Miles, Ella, what are you drawing?" "A dinosaur." Ella showed a sheet of paper with green scribbles. "Cool." Ava sat down next to her. "Dad, Nora, I'm going to Los Angeles next week. Climate conference." Ethan nodded, setting down the plate of pancakes. "Great, Ava. Lucas will be there too. He's flying in from Stanford." "Cool," Ava smiled. "And will Mom be there?" Ethan and Nora exchanged glances. Caitlin kept in touch with Lucas, who visited her occasionally, but Ava kept her distance, communicating with her mother only through occasional text messages. "I don't know," Ethan shrugged. "If you want to see her, I can write." "No need," Ava shook her head. "I'll decide for myself." Nora touched her hand. "Ava, we are with you, whatever you choose." Ava nodded, her eyes softening. Ethan looked at his daughter, feeling proud. She had grown up to be an activist, a fighter for nature, but the pain of what Caitlin had done still remained. Los Angeles, Caitlin's quarters. Caitlin Kane, 47, sat on the couch in her Santa Monica apartment, scrolling through photos on her phone. Lucas at prom, Ava at the climate march. Her agency, Silver Star Events, had become one of the leading events in Los Angeles, with a branch in San Francisco and a staff of 20. But success didn't fill a void. Her children were distant, and Ava was barely responding. Oliver, her husband of 49, walked in with 2 glasses of wine. His hair was gray, but his smile was warm. They had married 3 years earlier in a quiet ceremony on a Malibu beach. "Caitlin, are you on your phone again?" Oliver sat down next to her, holding out his glass. "What happened?" "Lucas is coming," she sighed. "And Ava, they're going to the climate conference. But Ava, she doesn't want to see me." Oliver took her hand. "Give her time. Lucas is already arriving, right? This is progress." "Yeah," Caitlin smiled weakly. "He was at Christmas. But Ava, she's like a wall." "She'll come," Oliver kissed her forehead. "You're strong, Caitlin, and she'll see it." Caitlin nodded, but her heart was clenching. She opened the draft of the letter to Ava, begun 7 years ago, and added, "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. If you want to meet, I'm here." she didn't send it, as she always did. Los Angeles Ocean View Restaurant. The Ocean View restaurant on the Santa Monica boardwalk was full. The clatter of forks, the laughter, the smell of seafood. Sitting around a large table were Ethan, Nora, Lucas, Ava, Caitlin, Oliver, Paul, and Linda. The dinner had been organized by Paul and Linda, who wanted to get the family together after the conference. Caitlin, in a navy dress, sat across from Ava, trying not to stare for too long. Ethan and Nora, holding hands, chatted with Lucas about his internship at Tesla. "Lucas, are you serious?" Nora laughed. "Robots in a factory?" "Yeah," Lucas grinned, taking a bite of his steak. "I'm designing a system for assembling batteries. Dad, you'd like that." "I'm proud, son," Ethan nodded. "But don't forget about your vacation." Caitlin listened, feeling the warmth of Lucas's voice. She turned to Ava, who was picking at her salad. "Ava," Caitlin ventured, "your speech at the conference was amazing. I saw the recording. You were so brave." Ava looked up, her face neutral. "Thank you," she said quietly. "It's just work." Caitlin swallowed, her hands clenching under the table. "If you want, I can come to your next march to support you." Ava tensed but didn't answer. Oliver touched Caitlin's hand, whispering, "Don't choke." Ethan, noticing the awkwardness, changed the subject. "Paul, Linda, how was your trip to Italy?" he asked. "Oh, wonderful." Linda perked up. "Florence, Rome. But we missed you." The conversation moved on, but Caitlin felt the distance. After dessert, Ava stood up, saying she wanted to go for a walk. Caitlin followed without hesitation. On the embankment, to the sound of the waves, she caught up with her daughter. "Ava," Caitlin paused, her voice shaking. "Can we talk?" Ava turned, her eyes tired. "Mom, I don't know what to say. You want everything to be like before, but I can't. I don't expect things to go back to the way they were." Caitlin swallowed. "I know I hurt you. I was selfish. But I love you, and I want to be a part of your life, even if it's hard." Ava was silent, looking at the ocean. Then her voice became quieter. "I'm not ready to forgive," she said. "But I want you in my life. A little bit." Caitlin gasped, her eyes filling with tears. Ava stepped forward and hugged her, briefly but tightly. Caitlin held her close, afraid the moment would disappear. "Thank you, dear," she whispered, crying. "I'll wait as long as it takes." Ava pulled away, wiping her eyes. "All right," she said and walked towards the restaurant. Caitlin stood watching her go, feeling the pain recede. She walked back to the table, where Oliver hugged her. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "Yes," Caitlin smiled through her tears. "Better than it was." Ethan, noticing her face, nodded, his gaze softening. Nora squeezed his hand, whispering, "This is the beginning." Los Angeles Silver Star Events Office. Caitlin sat in her office, reviewing the gala contract. Her agency was thriving. 30 employees, $1.5 million in annual revenue. She was proud of the business, but her thoughts were on Ava. Her text message, "Mom, I'll think about the meeting," was treasured on her phone. Oliver came in with coffee. "You're glowing," he smiled. "Ava?" "Yes," Caitlin nodded. "She gave me a chance. A small one, but a chance." "I told you," Oliver kissed her. "You can handle it." Caitlin looked at the photo of Lucas and Ava on the table. She knew it was a long road to their hearts, but for the first time in 7 years, she felt hope. Somewhere in Los Angeles, studio, same day. Blake Harper, 43, sat in a cramped studio, producing the reality show Brawling Neighbors. His career had been in tatters since the lawsuit and arrest. Contracts canceled, reputation destroyed. He watched an old video of his concert, his face tired. He knew his time was up. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one.